Bhattacharya, President C-DEP, who also joins us live. Jaijit, thanks for being with us as well as we build up to this meeting between Trump and Modi in France. Of course, a lot on the agenda for Prime Minister Modi's visit, and we've already been discussing the bilaterals and the meetings that he's been holding with Emmanuel Macron as well as the Bharat Innovates. But this meeting is also going to be important, going to be crucial, given the fact that it comes after so long for both leaders. They have been speaking on the phone, and they have been speaking on the phone quite often. But a physical meeting, of course, is always very important. What do you believe could be the key outcomes of this meet, Jaijit Bhattacharya, and how hopeful are you for breakthroughs in some of the key areas that India would be wanting?
From an Indian perspective, there have been quite a few challenges which has been coming up from the US side in the last 1 year. And they have been coming because of unilateral US policies being adopted. Some of them have already been discussed. For example, trade being one large disruption. So US and India together is about 30% of the global economy. US is and was one of the largest trade partners of India. But with all the changes that have happened in the US trade policy in the last 1 year, it has really hit the Indian exports. Now, of course, the Indian government has done well in terms of balancing what we have lost in terms of exports by finding other markets. But it's been a continuous set of challenges. If you look at the anti-dumping duties that US has been imposing on Indian goods, it has been as high as 630%. On the other hand, India has hardly been implementing any of the anti-dumping duties which has been determined. So even when dumping has been determined, India has not been imposing those duties. But US has not only imposed extremely large duties, but also for a very long period of time. That doesn't really show up US as a good trading partner. Along with it, the US geopolitical steps taken, especially in the Middle East, has hit India's energy supplies. Along with it, we were already being impacted by the fact that there was a Ukraine-Russia war going on, and therefore the US again had unilaterally put restrictions on Russian oil being purchased. And there were conflicting signals coming from the US, which was at one point in time, it was encouraging India to buy Russian oil and then suddenly turning around and stopping that. You cannot have large economies working on policies which go off and on at a very, very high frequency. And now with the Middle East intervention that has happened from the US, we are really choked. If you can't have Russian oil, if you can't have Middle East oil, then where does India get its energy supplies from? Now, of course, some of the supplies could come from US-controlled energy, such as Venezuela, but that would require a significant amount of industrial changes because it's not easy to process the kind of oil that comes from Venezuela. In addition, it's also impacting the petrochemicals industry of India, not just petrochemicals, but even the pharmaceutical industry, because some of the upstream for pharmaceutical is petrochemicals. And these medicines fall under the National Essential Medicines list. So if you're not able to get the petrochemicals, we're not able to feed our industry, we're not able to feed our MSMEs, while we are also getting challenged on exactly the same products from China. There is a tremendous amount of increase in Chinese exports to India that has happened, which is really and deeply impacting the Indian industry, coming on the back of what the US policies have been and their interventions in many of the energy supplying sources. And as Ambassador Sikri mentioned, there is also the concern about the free flow of ships. There's been concerns about Indian seamen. 3 of them were killed, and we didn't hear any apology from the US side. That's deeply concerning. If there is respect for the relationship on the US side with India, then there should have been a prompt apology that should have come in. But that didn't happen. Now imagine if the reverse had happened, if some Americans got killed because of the Indian military, there would have been a very different reaction from the Indian side. So we don't see parity in that relationship. So perhaps some of these issues could be coming up. And I think last I would like to say is that there was also on the table the target of a $500 billion trade between US and India to be achieved by 2030. I hope that is revisited. I hope the big picture is kept in mind. And moving forward, we have the changes in policies that need to happen on both sides.
All right. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We've run out of time.